The DragonScape is more than just Drekir in post-apocalyptic cities, and there are many drastic changes to the Americas themselves that go far beyond the Drekir. From sunken cities and voice lakes to obelisks and tectonic shifts, as well as animals and wildlife, what happened to the Americas on a more landscape and ecological perspective? In this basics video, we will discuss the broad basics of what became of the land and the wildlife, as well as the various magical anomalies that affect the DragonScape in the post-Pulse era. In the 30 years between the Pulse and the Drekir Awakening, nature would retake many of our old pre-Pulse city ruins. Empowered by magic, trees and forests would grow into the sidewalks, rivers would carve into old city streets, and wildlife would begin to return to these old city ruins, turning the cities into something of a hybrid between an enchanted forest and the city that was. Magic itself would run amok as well. Mana would elementize with the various car batteries laying around, turning into a viciously powerful acidic mana. Electric and fire mana would start fires and burn down vast swaths of wooden and flammable structures. Some cities would be entirely destroyed by various obelisks and voice lakes, as seen with the Milwaukee Shrine, an obelisk that turned the city of Milwaukee to glass. And lastly, many cities would come to be demolished by the Seviled Yao and the Balyar, leveled by maces, magic, and vindictive dragons during the 30 years in which the once human Drekir were left in stasis. By the time the people of 2018 would reawaken as Drekir in 2048, they would find their cities overrun and collapsing, or in some cases even entirely gone. The cities of the Americas would be far too gone to ever repair, leaving the Drekir in what is essentially the great wildernesses of the DragonScape. Of course, the animals of the DragonScape were changed by the Pulse as well, changing in various ways. Many of these creatures will have their own dedicated videos discussing them, so this will be a very broad and vague explanation. Mammals and avians are the most changed, becoming a mix of creatures native to the reality of Yondem. These new Yondemic creatures would spend their 3 decades of relative peace away from hunting and urban expansion to repopulate and expand across the DragonScape. Insects, amphibians, and reptiles would simply mutate, becoming bigger, more magical, more draconic, and taking on new behaviors. There are often snakes with the girth and length of trees, lizards the size of dogs, and frogs the size of tree stumps. Insects are very much similar. Beetles the size of cats, ants the size of fingers, and mosquitoes the size of thumbs, etc. The wildlife of the post-Pulse would be far different from the creatures found in the pre-Pulse, with many of the pre-Pulse creatures being unrecognizable to the post-Pulse versions that the Drekir will come to be familiar with. In addition to a change of wildlife, many of the regions of the Americas would shift geographically from natural changes, degradation of infrastructure, and shifts caused by magic and mana. While natural changes are always happening, the latter two are far more dramatic. The degradation of infrastructure such as levees and dams would result in the flooding of previously unflooded regions. Combined with more magical aspects of the geographical shifts, we'll see many lakes expand, cities and towns getting swallowed by the rush of a breaking dam or the creep of a returning tide, etc. In the chaos of the Pulse, a lot of land masses of the Americas were themselves disrupted. Tectonic plates would change and even fracture, new mountain ranges, though small usually, would rise up from nowhere, canyons and gorges would form, new river pathways would spawn, and form new lakes. There are even cases of cities that would collapse and fall underground into the undercaves being a ramble for later, and others that would be torn apart from sudden and dramatic shifts in the local geography. Lastly, many of the Balyar have themselves warped landscapes of the DragonScape to suit their own personal desires, such as, for example, how the Balmir may submerged La Ciudad de Mexico in a layer of fog, creating La Tierra Niebla. Magic, mana, and pulse resonance would also leave their direct impact on the landscape, both from the chaotic reality warping obelisks, as well as the mana wastelands known as the Voice Lakes. Voice Lakes are voids in reality created from the sheer power and chaos of the Pulse, being voids that lead directly into the afterlife, the first construction. They corrupt the surrounding wilderness, warping and mutating the forest around them into strange, mana-filled perversions of their former nature. Obelisks are a compressed pulse resonance created in the chaos of the Pulse, landing all over the Americas. Their effects are totally random. They can be as mild as making an area slightly warmer or colder, or even something mild but bizarre like making the air taste like honey. Or they can be extreme, such as transforming a city to glass, creating a bubble in reality that acts like a small pocket dimension, or even removing the laws of physics and its influence, such as gravity. Magic and mana itself would affect the climate and environments of the DragonScape, creeping clouds of murmur fog and spell storms, elementized mana rivers of fire or lightning. Magic and mana will warp the landscape as much, if not more, than natural processes. In conclusion, compared to the American continents and the Caribbean of the prequels, many aspects of the DragonScape's geology, ecology, flora and fauna, and so on is far different from what existed in the prequels. The DragonScape of the post-Pulse era is a wild, magical wilderness that in many ways bears very little resemblance to the pre-Pulse Americas. That will wrap up this basics video, but before I head out I just wanted to give a heads up. As an aside, the next video to come out will take a while as it's the first of the explained videos, and will be on Drekir Society. I have been able to run this gauntlet of daily videos only thanks to my job being on hold due to the coronavirus pandemic. This is only temporary, so I should probably start establishing a schedule, as this free time is not going to last forever. I will say it should be about 1 week from this upload before the next video is done and ready to go. This first explained video will also be far longer than any of these previous basic videos that I've uploaded so far. So, thank you for your patience, thank you for watching, and take care.